If everyone you know is talking about automate your podcast, automate your podcast, automate your podcast, this video is going to be for you. We're going to chop up the automation process into many, many segments, but this video is to automate your invitation process. So I've talked a lot about if you set up your automation to invite folks, you don't have to worry about following up. You don't have to worry about manually communicating to them. You don't have to worry about manually booking. So in this video, we're going to talk about how exactly do you set up an automation to follow the proper steps, and what are some protocols you should take to make sure that people actually book and you don't have to go ring around the rosy or cat and mouse to make sure someone books an interview. All right, so if you're ready to get into it, let's go. So I am sharing the back end of my system, which is called Magic Suite. It's backed by GoHighLevel. And if you want to know a little bit more about how to start your own GoHighLevel, get this snapshot, then all you got to do is send me a comment or just find me on Instagram and DM me. So we're going to specifically talk about the invitation process. So even though all of these automations exist, we're specifically going to focus here on this guest invited automation. So let's hop in. So if I zoom out, you automatically see a whole bunch of stuff. Depending on your level of savvy, whether you are into automation or you know a little bit about automation, this basically just means after this, do this. After that, do this. After this, do that. And if this doesn't happen, do that. So don't be intimidated by the automation. It's literally drag and drop. I'm not here to teach you how to understand every aspect of automation, but I want you to know how to line it up and what your automation should look like if you have someone do it for you. So let's zoom in. Every automation, so I'm going to give you like automation 101. Every automation that you ever do in this life from this day forward is going to start with a trigger. The word may change in 20 years, but right now it is called a trigger in almost any system that I've ever used. So you have to use a trigger action to trigger all of the following actions after you do one thing. So for my podcast, in its entirety, everything is broken out by tags. When a client is tagged X or when a guest is tagged X, XYZ happens. Anytime they are tagged something, then it triggers the next pipeline. So if you haven't necessarily understood what I mean by pipeline, I have another video, which I'm going to link in here, that talks about it talks about pipelines. So you can use that breakdown to get a gist of what I'm talking about. This is just one step in a single pipeline. And right now we're talking about the recording pipeline or the interview pipeline, depending on when you're watching this video. So we're starting this automation with a trigger. The trigger that we've set up for this automation to actually invite a guest to your podcast is going to be tagging the guest podcast guest invitation sent. So we're going to click into it so I can make sure I'm not lying to you guys. The tag is specifically called podcast :1 send guest invitation. So the reason that the tag is specifically named send guest invitation is because this tag is going to trigger an action. So we don't want to say guest invitation sent because that's not what the tag is confirming. The tag is confirming we've initiated the interview invitation. So the tag is send guest invitation. So once they've been tagged that, we'll go to the subsequent actions. But basically, when I'm in my workflows, I just like to label things clearly. So even if I'm not doing it myself, someone can easily understand how to come in here and understand what's happening. So let's say I wanted to change the tag. I would literally just come in here, click the space and find another tag that I want to trigger this action. But for me, I like to make all of my tags very basic. So if I tag it, send something, do something, I want you to do just that. Okay, so we're going to cancel and zoom out. And let's go to the next step. So the next step in the process is update the opportunity to guest invited. So what this means is, and again, you'll have to go back and watch the video on pipelines, but there's a sequence of steps in one pipeline. So what this is basically saying is, within the pipeline, move the guest from the stage it was before to the current stage that it's in now. So what this is saying is, the action name is update the opportunity. Opportunity would be the guest, the contact name. You're going to be in the recording pipeline, and you're going to update them to the guest invited pipeline. So now, anytime you look at your dashboard, if someone is under the stage guest invited, you know you've invited them to your podcast. Okay. And then if we scroll down, okay, so that is all that matters here. They've been updated, so no matter where you're looking, you can see that you've invited a particular guest. This next part is where we get into the detail. It's the actual communication that's sent out as soon as you tag someone. So when you tag them, the way that my workflow is set up, which I suggest you do yours as well, I send an email and a text message. So the email says, in the preview text says, invite podcast guests to book an interview. Plain and simple. This SMS does the exact same thing. It invites the podcast guest to book an interview. But again, we have to be mindful of our communication. So since we're in the guest invited workflow and not the special guest invited workflow, our communication is going to look like, thank you so much. We've selected you to be on this podcast. Please click this link to book. So let's jump in. Now, all this information is basically back-end system talk to just tell us who's the email going to come from, who's the email going to go to, what is the subject line of the email, and then we have the good stuff here, which is the template of the email. Now, I have a template for every single email occasion that you'll need, from inviting your guests to the podcast to asking for affiliate revenue on a consistent basis, all the way to getting referrals on your podcast. So if you want those templates, that will be in the description below. But long story short, this is basically saying, we would like you on the podcast. Click this link to schedule your, click this link to view your formal invitation. And then we talk about the purpose. So this is actually very, very important. Click this link to view your formal invitation. We're going to pause here real quick and we'll come right back to it. So when you send your invitation, many people specialize their podcast invitation to talk about why they invited you to the podcast, what they like about you, about your 3 kids, five dogs, whatever, and why they like you, just specifically. Well, the more you customize text in an email or in any type of automation, the harder it is for you to automate it. So what I would suggest, which also is just a more personal touch, I would suggest you offer videos. The more videos you use, the more lively the process is anyway. And you can use those videos to personalize any invitation you send out to a guest, no matter where you are. So this link, if we go back to the automation, once we go back to the automation, it's a link that's going to direct someone to your video. And in my case, it's to the invitation landing page. So let's go back to it. So it says, click here to view your formal invitation. Now from here, I'm going to open this link so you guys can see the page that opens up. And we can even preview the video just so you can see what it's about. So this is my landing page. And as you can see, it says Tommy. And for some reason, Tommy's first name is lowercase. I don't know why she put that in there like that. But Tommy, you're invited to be a guest on the Podcast Machine. Your podcast is going to say you've been invited to be a guest on the Simply Beautiful podcast. So Jessica, you're invited to be a guest on the Maximum Output podcast. Whatever it is, it's going to be customized to your guest. And when you scroll down, because this is a landing page, this is the exact same video that every guest, regular guest, will see. Every special guest will either receive a personalized video or they can receive a landing page that is tailored to the special guest experience. So let's preview the video so you see a little bit about, so you can get a glimpse of what you should have in your video.
I am so excited to invite you to be a guest on the podcast machine so you can share your story with our listeners so they can grow in their content creation journey. There's so many layers that I'm excited to pull back in your journey. So there are 3 things that I need you to know so we can provide the best value to our listeners. 1, we selected you because your content creation journey truly exemplifies the lessons that we want to share with our listeners so that they can grow as podcasters and content creators. 2, my goal is to show that podcasting is not just a hobby and that it truly can be a gateway to leaving your 9 to 5 or starting a full-fledged cash flowing side hustle. And you have shown that your story can absolutely add value there. Last but not least, we need tangible takeaways so that our audience can absolutely take our episode and run with it with the value that comes from this conversation. I don't believe in just listening to podcasts just because, unless it's for entertainment. But if you came here to the podcast machine, then you are ready to up-level your content creation journey. And that is the level of content that we want to deliver on this episode. So if you are on board, click the link below, select a time and date that works for you. And I am so excited to have you on the podcast. I'll see you soon.
All right, so that's the short video that every guest will see. And when they scroll down, there's a little bit more information about why we have you on the podcast. Remember, if you are our guest, then we've already put you through a process where you filled out the guest appearance questionnaire. And we've decided that after looking at your responses, we're excited to interview you. This button is all that matters. So after the video, there's one clear button that says schedule your interview, and this is going to take them to the page where they can book their slot. Now, after they book their slot, they will have another email where they can cancel, reschedule, and just get the regular the reminders that they need to prepare for the interview. But that is the booking process. So if we go back to the automation, this one email where we basically say, we're excited to have you on the podcast, click this link for your formal invitation, and the rest takes care of itself because they can book their interview from that link and take action. There's also, if you scroll through the rest of this email, we're talking about the purpose of them being on the podcast, who we're looking for, the type of conversations that we're interested in having, and the goal that we want to achieve. And here's a second call to action if they missed it in the landing page to book their interview. So there are 2 places for someone to book an interview. You can't miss it. And it literally should take care of 80 to 90% of the folks who are going to be on your podcast. So let's get into the next steps. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. The SMS is not going to be as detailed. Instead, what it's going to do is direct your guest to go to their email, click the link so they can book their call, their slot. So basically, this text message says, I emailed you the details for our interview. Can't wait to have you on the show. So now all they need to do is take action, go to their inbox and click the link to book their time. Now we're getting into some automation that really saves you a bunch of time and manual effort following up with people. Once you send that invitation, you want your system to check and make sure that they've actually got the email. So this first wait 24 hours for link to be clicked, this is a signal for the automation to listen. Hey, have someone clicked into the email? Have they opened it? Have they booked? Are we still waiting? What are we waiting for? That's what this signal is. Wait 24 hours to see if they've actually clicked the links. So if they click the link, they will be tagged invitation received. That doesn't mean that they were booked. So we'll get back to that later. If they did not click the link, then they will be sent a reminder. So here's that reminder sequence that I was telling you about. So if they click the link, they'll be tagged email invitation received. If they did not click the link, then they will be sent a reminder after 24 hours. Remember, 24 hours and another action is taken. We're going to scroll down. As we listen, as we see this split happens here, there's two different workflows. So if they click the link, they've been marked as invitation received. So now you know, okay, they've received my email. It's not that they just received it and opened it, but they also clicked the link. And 9 times out of 10, if they clicked the link and did not book, they just didn't have time to fill out the information yet. So you just have to follow up. After they've been tagged invitation received, they are going to be sent a reminder to book. Now, that conversation is saying, hey, we've sent you the invitation. We know that you got it. Don't forget to book. That is going to be sent via email and text as well. And then 3 days after that, if we still have not received a booking, we are going to remind them one more time. So after 3 days, we're asking ourselves, have they clicked the link? If not, then we are going to remind them for a final time. So with the automation, we want to track where in the process are they? Did they receive the invitation? If they received the invitation, did they book? And those steps are separate. So this fork in the road is saying if they click the link in the email, then we know they've received the invitation. That's why we have the tag here. But just because they clicked the link doesn't necessarily mean that they booked an interview. So if they have not booked an interview, they will still remain in this workflow. And so they will receive another reminder. This reminder is telling them, hey, I know life gets busy, but we want to remind you to schedule your interview. And the text message does the exact same thing to support the email. Now, here's where things get interesting. We want to wait 3 days to make sure that we give them enough time to book their interview. After 3 days, if they've clicked the link but they still haven't booked yet, then we are going to send them another reminder. If they have not booked, we're going to send them a final reminder that says, hey, we know things get crazy, but we want to remind you to book your interview. If they have already booked their interview, then there's nothing to do at this step. We don't need to remind them. As a matter of fact, this step doesn't do anything, doesn't go to link received, doesn't do anything. Matter of fact, we can go ahead and delete it. So if they have received, if they've been tagged, they've booked, indicating that they've booked their interview, nothing happens. But if they have not booked their interview, they get one more reminder, even though they've clicked their link. Now, remember, let's zoom out just a bit so we can recap. So we send them their original email, and then we send them a text message. We wait 24 hours to see if they click the link. If they click the link, we send a reminder. And if they still don't book, we send one more reminder. Now, let's see what happens if they never click the link. We sent them the invitation. They didn't click the link. So what do we do now? We're going to zoom in. If they don't click the link, we send them the first reminder email and reminder text message. We wait 3 more days to see if we can still see if they receive the invitation. Here's where things split up on this end. So let's say they do actually click the link, but they don't book. We are now going to send them back to the original sequence we just discussed, where we remind them a couple more times to book their interview. And that way they'll go ahead and if they don't book their interview, we'll send them a couple more final invitations. But if they do not click that link, they will get one more final invitation. That means they've received one invitation, they've received one reminder, and they've received a final reminder. Well, actually, if they do click that link, then they'll be reminded a couple more times. But if they don't click the link, then it ends here. So let's zoom out a little bit. Let's talk about this. If you have been invited to the podcast and you never click a link, you never do anything, then you'll be reminded a maximum of 3 times, because From the moment you got the invitation, you never touched it, you never thought about it, and we're not going to bug you about it. But on the other hand, if you've received the invitation and you clicked it and you thought about it, but you never came back to it, you've gotten reminders to actually click that link. And then we are going to send you more reminders to actually book. So in total, it can be about 6 reminders over a course of a 2 or 3 week process that reminds your guests to book their interview without you having to do it. And the language is already built in so that you're not bugging them. They've already agreed to be on your podcast. You just want to go ahead and lock in a date. So I hope this makes sense to you. If you have questions about how does this automation work, just send me comments below so I can understand how to break this down even better. But let's just finish this conversation up. So by zooming out, we now see that there are several touch points where a guest is offered the opportunity to be on your podcast. And depending on whatever actions they took, they will be placed in different funnels. And each of these green icons are indications that different communication will be sent out. If you want that communication, again, just let me know. The link is going to be in the description, but you can also connect with me on how to personalize this. Of course, now that we have ChatGPT, some of these emails can be specifically customized to your podcast in a whole new way, but you have a foundation of information so you can give it to ChatGPT so they can start from somewhere. The last thing that we have to remember whenever it comes to automation is that you have to make a specific trigger. The trigger needs to be clear. The trigger should be the same throughout your entire process so you don't confuse yourself. So if there's any other takeaways, you need to have a trigger and you need to be clear on what the steps are through your invitation process. All right, that clears up that whole invitation process. If you have other questions about how to automate this or what systems can this be done in, then just let me know. I really hope you got some value from this video. Again, I am super excited about helping you really, really narrow down and reduce the time you spend on podcasting or the back end of podcasting so you can have fun on the front end podcasting. Again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.